Hey, how's everybody doing? John Velie, CEO of OnlineVisas, and I'm here with another episode of Immigration Solutions during the COVID pandemic. Talking about a number of things today. There is some news from immigration, but first we always go with the daily stats. Let's see what we got. Well, around the world, we have 1.8 million cases and 117,000 deaths, so that's no good. We've had 77,000 new cases today, meaning that within 2 days at this rate, we'll be over 2 million cases in the world. No fun there. Hey, Nico, good to see you, and Lee Fithian. Thanks for turning up. It's 8 o'clock Central Time, and John Velie talking about immigration during the COVID virus. In the United States, we're 553,000 cases, 21,972 deaths, and 29,000 new cases. They had a big jump in deaths in New York today. I think over 10,000 deaths in New York, and part of that was they started attributing, hey, Trent Jones, they started attributing some of the deaths to people that didn't, weren't found positive with the disease, maybe an estimate. I don't know. I saw something on that. It was pretty interesting why they did that. Garrett Offenberger's out there. It's good to see you, Garrett. So those are some interesting things. Immigration, from an immigration perspective, here's some interesting things I saw. Hi, Chad Lennon's here. One of those is whether or not a visa holder can obtain the economic stimulus check. And the answer is yes. And didn't know that until recently. We were looking at that. We assumed it might not have been the case, but it is. So to get the economic relief check from the U.S. government, a visa holder, and not just any visa holder, it doesn't apply to all of them, but really the work visa holders, and we'll go through that, and other tax-paying resident aliens have to meet some minimum standards for eligibility, and that is kind of the same as most U.S. citizens. You should have filed your 2019 tax returns. I'm not sure if that's an absolute deal, but or else your 2018 tax returns will be considered. And I think that's what's going to be okay. And I say I think because tomorrow's tax day, right? Tomorrow's April 15th. That's the day that strikes fear in a lot of us. But IRS has moved tax day to July 15th. So you can file your taxes without penalty if you do it by July 15th. And if you're a company and you do your estimated quarterly taxes, that's also not due until July 15th. So you can hold on to your money. So when they said you should have filed your 2019 tax returns to get the stimulus check, or else they'll look at the 2018 tax returns, that's a goofy way of just saying you have to file your 2018 tax returns. Ramesh Thumu's there. Jonathan Ballou, always good to see Jonathan. Jack Arnold, good to see you guys. Jonathan, I would be in Aspen right now. I had a plane ticket to come up there, and unfortunately, the mountains shut down, and I bet it's incredible snow still. But one of the disappointing things of the coronavirus is not being able to do that. Konstantin Sherbin, the guy that looks like Woody Harrelson's out there, one of the great rock stars of Russia. Good to see you, Konstantin. So besides having filed your tax returns of 2018, this is for visa holders, right? Work visa holders are able to get the stimulus check as well. 2018 taxes, you have to have a Social Security number. Now, if you're on a work visa, you typically have one of those. So if you don't, you might want to go down and get it. If taxes are filed together with your dependent spouse, both filers should have their tax return. So that's a little bit of information. In the case of a child, the parent should have a Social Security number, or else the child doesn't get it, even if the child has a Social Security number. So those things are important. People who only have ITINs, that's independent or individual tax ID numbers, they're not eligible. So that might be a bummer for some of you. So what's the substantial presence test, and how is it applicable to the visa holders? Well, that means you have to have spent, to be present in the U.S. for at least 31 days in 2020. 183 days within a combination 3-year period that includes 2020 and 2 years immediately before that. And this should cover physical presence for the entire year of 2020 plus 4 months of 2019 and one-sixth of 2018. If you have any questions on that, private message me, you might, but for most visa holders that have been here working, you're going to be able to get this. Now, when should you expect to get a check if you have a visa? Well, the IRS will begin distributing checks starting next week, and it'll be sent out in waves and continue until September 2020. So if you don't receive it in the next couple of weeks, first check whether you are eligible for it and then wait patiently. So that may happen. The checks will be deposited directly in your U.S. bank accounts if you've included information regarding direct deposits into your 2018 or 2019 tax returns. Again, we just said 2019s are not due tomorrow, April 15th, not due until July 15th. So if you put the direct deposit into 2018, they'll send it to you that way. If not, you may have filed your federal tax returns online, received a federal tax refund, your bank account in the last year, then your check will come in the mail. And how much money should non-immigrants, these are called non-immigrants. If you're on a visa and a work visa, you're a non-immigrant. An immigrant's a green card holder. A non-immigrant can be an H-1B visa holder, an O-1, a P-1, an L-1, an E-1 or E-2, L-2s, the dependent visas as well. You should get a minimum threshold of wages mandated by, if you're an H-1B visa holder, your LCA. Since this threshold might exceed the minimum wage requirement to qualify for the stimulus check, you'll have to verify with your employer if you qualify for the check. To qualify for the stimulus check, an unmarried visa holder earning less than $75,000 will get a one-time payment of $1,200. Married couples who file their taxes jointly but earn less than $150,000, the check amount will be a one-time payment of $2,400. And if the income exceeds $99,000 for a single filers and $198,000 for joint filers, the amount boils down to zero. No money for you. So if you make too much money, you don't get any. Hope that helps. Jonathan Blue said it answered his question. That's good. Paul Riddle's out there. He calls it Velie time. He's actually a little anxious for it today. That's good to see that I may be sort of like a drug to the Goat Man. So glad to be here for you, Goaty. Always here to dispense some knowledge. Families with children can accept or receive $500 for each child, provided that the parents have a Social Security number. The question here was, will you get this check every month? No. The CARE Act is a one-time economic relief. During the hardships of COVID-19, the U.S. government will have to pass another bill to extend this relief package. Here's a question. Does this check affect my green card application? No. Since the check is considered a tax credit, you receive it like any other taxpayer. Accepting this amount will not be considered a state benefit. This will not affect any future immigration filings, including the application for U.S. citizens. So good news for the non-immigrant visa holders. Now that doesn't include, I believe, B1, B2 visa holders. Those are the visitors or students. Really, you have to be a taxpayer. You have to be making money under your visa in which to get that. So if you are, then you should get that. Hey, Matt Crevin's out there and Sterling Atkinson. Good to see you guys. So I'm John Velie, CEO of OnlineVisas, talking about immigration during the coronavirus. We've also dabbled into taxes. Taxes right now, we just talked about. You can still file on April 15th, but you don't have to. July 15th is the new deadline for filing your taxes. You don't have to put in an extension. That was a relief because we hadn't done ours yet, and it's tomorrow. So look, it's not tomorrow. It's July 15th. That's really cool. Also said that you could if you were a company that files your quarterly estimates, the quarter would end on April 15th or for the first quarter. would be when you would pay this, but you don't have to do that till July 15th. So hold on to your money. You don't have to do it. Thomas Allen's out there. Thomas Allen, the great immigration attorney, one of the H-1B gurus, probably has a bunch of them on his table right now. How you doing, Thomas? Good time to start working on those. It reminds me that there's been some really great case law that's come out on H-1Bs recently, and a great case. Jonathan Wasden helped represent IT Serve Alliance, and Thomas and I are both part of the IT Serve community, and Jonathan Wasden was hired by the Political Action Committee of that. I was able to be part of that, and he went out and won a big case called IT Serve versus Cistna. And it really shot down a lot of the arguments that were being made to stop the staffing-based H-1Bs from going through. Staffing companies have provided an amazing thing to the United States economy. These are the folks that will recruit the really great tech workers, bring them over on visas, and place them for projects around the country. And it's really important for a lot of companies to have that project-based visa available to them. One, they don't have to expend those monies. These companies are doing it. They're employing a lot of people. These people are also creating jobs for Americans. A lot of people don't understand the stats around immigration and what it really does to help us. But for every 1.8 H-1B visa holder, it creates a job for an American. So for every H-1B visa, it creates 1.8 jobs for Americans. So almost 2 to 1. So every time somebody comes in, 2 more jobs for Americans. For smaller companies, that's a 7 to 1. Right? For every one H-1B, it's creating 7 jobs for Americans. And you can see this in small companies that develop a software or have a software package or networking and those sort of things. It's really, really fantastic for our economy. And that's sort of been lost in the dynamic. That's why I started speaking and writing a lot on immigration, why I went into these interviews, or I'm sorry, not interviews, but talking, is really want to change the dialogue of what is immigration in America. And it's been, it's been a negative term, but, it's really an interesting term. So people ask me they don't ask me when I say I'm an immigration attorney, I know they don't know what that even means, right? So what I do as an immigration attorney, I help U.S. companies hire foreign nationals to do really specific and important jobs, right? Sometimes they're athletes, sometimes they're doctors, tech workers, nurses, all sorts of incredible people that our economy needs to do well. And we're the number one tech company or number one tech country in the world, but we really import a lot of that talent because we don't have enough of it to do what we need to do to be the best in the world. So the H-1B is the visa really for all white-collar jobs. What I mean by white-collar jobs is that you have to have a university degree. The job needs to require a university degree to do that. And this case that came down, IT Serve Alliance, and there's a number of them. 3Q was another case. Inspection Expert, company, IXP is what we call it for short, and a number of others have come down just in the last month. And, what's been happening is this administration has been making policy changes without changing regulations and doing it, in a very roguish way. And the courts have been shooting them down. So what's happened is, the H-1B visa used to have an 88% approval rating. So that means virtually all of them, right? About 12% didn't, and they probably didn't deserve to get approved. But that dropped to 59% in 2017 with the new administration. And what happened is that there was a Senator Grassley from Iowa, was really against the H-1B visa. He was against the L-1 visa, which brings in people from international companies, and he's against the EB-5 investment visa, which is really interesting because as our country has borrowed money from foreign nations like China and others, the EB-5 is if you invest a $500,000 or $1 million into a U.S. company. It's now raised because of Mr. Grassley to $900,000 and $1.8 million. But if you do that and you create 10 jobs for Americans, you get a green card. So it requires an investment. It creates 10 jobs. But here's this guy fighting it. We know he's been fighting it because he's putting these laws in since 2010 up through 2017. And when President Trump was elected, We've heard of Michael Miller, who is sort of the architect of negative illegal immigration, but it's really the chiefs of staff from Grassley that have come in and changed how the legal merit-based immigration was done and really nailed these visas. And it's been very difficult for lots of companies. So I started this conversation because we saw Thomas Allen, who's done a great job with H-1Bs in his firm. So Thomas and I help a lot of Indian staffing companies be able to do this. And some really great news with the ICE Serve Alliance, which attacked immigration for its arbitrary and capricious determinations. And that's how you determine an agency does something wrong, right? So it was determined that immigration was arbitrary and capricious because they had this long-standing rules that they were just changing. And one of the things that they did was you had to have gotten a university degree. And when I've done this for 26 years, right? So for the last 3, it wasn't enough just to have a degree or a degree that was closely related. It had to be very, very specific, right? So they were saying things like MBAs, Masters of Business Administration, or even Bachelors in Business Administration were too general. So you could get an MBA, get hired on, to a great company to do this job. You'd spend all this money to get this great degree, and your company wants you, right? They're hiring you. You've incurred incredible amounts of money to get this great MBA, and I'm sorry, your degree's too general. You can't get an H-1B. See you later. Go back to your home country. That's what's been happening, and it's been crazy. I see that David Robinson's out there, Mark Sherman, my good friend, Anasa Cortamana, and Brett Simmons are there. Anasa, there's a great rugby player. We helped get a visa 4 years ago. One of the fastest guys you'll ever know, from Fiji. Just lightning quick, probably still is to this day, and it's good to see he's out there. So I'm talking immigration. We're talking about the H-1B visa and these great new lawsuits that came down. And so we're sitting here right on the cap. So there's a numeric cap for these visas. There's only 65,000 of them available a year. And it's funny because you'll see companies like SAP or Microsoft, literally hundreds and thousands of open jobs, right? There's only 85,000, 65,000 plus another 20 for master's degree holders available per year for all professional jobs, all jobs that require a degree, right? It's just this weird governmental intrusion into the marketplace of how many people do we need. And so they've made that more difficult. They have this lottery. So the lottery came March 1st, ended March 24th, and now we have 90 days after they've selected those to put those visas in. So Thomas and I, we've been working hard getting our cases in, and I'm using these new victories to help hopefully persuade the government to approve more of these cases. We've had a pretty good run at that. For ourselves, we have a 95% approval rating, which isn't bad when the rest of the country has a 59. But it's really because what we're doing is we're answering their questions up front. We're telling them that we know about these other cases. We're giving them what they want to have, and then we're sort of pushing it that way. And it's really we've had to go kind of work with our clients to educate how they should even hold themselves out as companies anymore, which is crazy that they've had to do it, but that's what our job has been. It's been an interesting time to be an immigration attorney. And now, in my lifetime, 9/11 was an interesting time. I mean, they shut it down, and that was tough on all of us. And this last few years has been. But now, what's it going to be like in the post-corona world? I think we're all wondering that, right? I mean, we've been working from home. With working from home, is there going to be a great desire to outsource everything? If you don't need to work in your office in the United States, do you even need employees in the United States? I think we might see that happening. And I always wondered why the big companies didn't fight back against the government. I have friends that are at IBM. I went up there shortly after the inauguration of Donald Trump, and I met with their chief lobbyist, who is a friend of mine. She helped me with getting some of the top congressmen, John Conyers, for example, who was the chief of the Congressional Black Caucus of the United States Congress, to help us with the Cherokee and the Seminole Freedmen cases, right? And so she was a good friend of mine, and she's now at IBM. And I went up there and I said, what are you guys going to do? I mean, this is looking really bad. This is after the Hire American, Buy American, Hire American Act, BAHA, which is what really kind of set it in motion to change the policy of how immigration looks at its work visas. A lot of people don't know that, but you might remember Donald Trump in front of the Snap-on Tools place. They were going to bring back factory jobs. Well, they didn't bring back factory jobs. What they did is they stopped American tech companies from being able to bring in the tech jobs we needed. And what's happened from that was, I'm not even sure it was an unintended consequences, but jobs leaving the United States. We have lost so many jobs from the United States back to India, and they want to be here. That's the irony. But I've been to India a few times. I've been to Hyderabad, India, where, I counted from my friend Sheshi's house, 27 cranes all building it. Huge complexes for Microsoft and Anderson Consulting and all these major corporations, IBM, all of them, their largest workflows or largest workforces are now outside the United States. They're in India. And now with where we are with working from our homes right now, why do we need any jobs in the United States? That is going to be a real evolution from this, in my prediction, negative prediction, right? I think we're going to have to, we're really going to be begging immigrants to come here shortly for a couple of reasons. And this is so weird about this debate to me. So right now, the baby boomers are aging out of our workforce. We have 5 generations in our workforce right now. I don't know we've ever had that. And our largest generation are the baby boomers. And every year we lose more workers. And we're losing them at big jobs, right? They're CEOs, COOs, CFOs. They're the big jobs, and they're leaving our workforce, and we're going to need to replace them, right? So ironically, and kind of painfully ironically, our current philosophy is to round up people in our workforce and throw them out of the country, or lock them up indefinitely and then throw them out of the country. And so our American companies are having their workers raided and thrown out, and we're losing workers, right? And now workers, there are going to be more things outsourced. So what's it going to be like post coronavirus? Are we going to be begging for immigrants to come here? I think so. Got some interesting folks have joined us. Hector Aguindiga, sorry if I pronounced that. VJ Garg, good to see you guys are here. Ian Dotel, our director of sales. Anthony Mattaccione's back, and Lisa Mansour Millington, my good friend. It's good to see you guys. It's good for me to talk. I love seeing you out there. It's been a lot of fun to have these conversations. I'm John Velie. I'm talking about immigration. We've done a lot of things. Ian and I have been reaching out to farmers, doctors, and tech companies to see how we can help, especially in medicine and agriculture right now. These are tough times. And if any of you guys know any hospitals that need doctors, we're connected to a large number of them. We'd like to get them over here. So please private message me on that or reach out. Anyway, call it a night for tonight. It's great to see you guys. I'll be back tomorrow. Thanks so much for tuning in. John Velie, CEO, OnlineVisas. Take care.